Want me to start over? I'm going to start over. Good evening. The May 18th, 2022 meeting of the West Springfield Planning Board hereby called to order at 6 p.m. In accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, I must announce that anyone intending to tape the meeting must identify themselves to the clerk and provide his or her name and address for the record. We inform those present that any document that is to be considered or discussed must be made part of the record of the meeting, and the original or copy must be submitted to the committee before there will be any discussion regarding the document. Documents include photos, plans, drawings, computer printouts and simulation, video presentations and the like, as well as letters and written material. You want to do the board reorganization or save that? All right. We've tried to do this several times. We got board reorganization. My assumption is if anybody wants to suggest any changes, now's the time. If not, we vote to leave everything the way it is. Any discussion, any suggestions? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, change the order.
Well, who's in what seat? Like, Bev, what are you, secretary?
I'm the secretary.
Yeah, and then what else we got? How many positions we got?
So there's chair and vice chair. We don't currently have a vice chair.
I'm fine the way it is.
Jay will be
Do we need one?
the assistant to the regional.
Well, I usually alternate between Jay and Ryan to take your seat when you're not.
But that's okay, right?
Present.
Can we leave it that way?
Yeah.
You guys all right with that?
We'll
Everybody?
We'll rock, paper, scissors it.
That's right.
All right. So, let's have a motion and,
I move to make no change to the current, what do we call,
board organization.
board organization.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, good. Okay, we're gonna, just in case anybody's here for a specific thing, we're gonna take the agenda a little bit out of order. We're gonna do the 6 p.m. as scheduled. We're gonna save the 6:05 for last, because that could get a little lengthy. So, 6 p.m., Mayor Reichelt, Councilor Eager. The hearing is to consider a petition for a zoning ordinance amendment to 300 Article 11 to change the title to wireless communication facilities outside the right-of-way, and an amendment to 300-11.6 design standards to add a subsection which will refer applicants to the proposed small wireless facility design rules and regulation policy for such installations. The aforementioned policy will also be reviewed and considered by the planning board.
So this is, as stated in the hearing notice, sort of a two-part thing. The first is an amendment to our existing wireless facilities ordinance, giving it the new title, which would be wireless communications facilities outside of the right-of-way, to clarify the jurisdiction of the zoning ordinance over facilities outside of the right-of-way versus those which are in the right-of-way, which are under the purview of the town council. And then adding a subsection which references design standards. I gave you all a copy of those. Those design standards are actually a policy. They won't be codified in the zoning ordinance. And the reason for that is the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, issues guidelines and changes to things pretty regularly, and this gives us the ability to pivot a bit more quickly. The board would still have to vote on any changes, but it doesn't have to go through the full ordinance amendment process because it's just a policy. And the policy is really focused on aesthetics and safety, as far as road safety and the ability of motorists to see where they're going, making sure these installations don't block walkways, and that type of thing. And just to be clear, the small wireless facility designation is commonly known as 5G, the small cell antenna, which are being rolled out across the country and have thus far been pretty much unregulated by the town as far as their design. So this is a good thing for us to get into place. I did ask the town attorney to write an explanation of how we arrived at these design guidelines. It was her project, so to speak, which myself and the DPW helped to guide and gave some input on. But The FCC, as I think you know from our past dealings, has some really stringent restrictions on how far municipalities can go in regulating wireless facilities, because their goal is to improve wireless access, internet access across the country. So, as I was saying, I asked the attorney to just give like a brief summary of how we got there. And I'll kind of just touch on the key points. So this is Jenna Wellhoff. She's first assistant attorney for the town. She wrote how she reached out to the Mass Municipal Lawyers Association to inquire how other municipalities have addressed this issue. We're fortunate that we're not the first ones crossing this bridge. So the town of Burlington actually got back to her, and she asked about their process, and they went through the same sort of thing that we're doing here, where the design guidelines are a policy rather than in the ordinance, for the reasons I previously stated. But we also compared the regulation and the policies to the city of Somerville, Arlington, Medford, Stoneham, Lowell, and Worcester, and ours are consistent with that. And she also touched on radio frequency emissions, because that's been a talking point about these facilities in many different forums. And the FCC is specific that no state or local government or instrumentality thereof may regulate the placement, construction, and modification of personal wireless service facilities on the basis of environmental effects of radio frequency emissions, to the extent that such facilities comply with the Commission's regulations concerning such emissions, which is basically saying that the FCC, the federal government, has oversight of what is safe and what is not, and it's not up to the municipality to make that determination. So I covered, a high-level overview of it. I'm happy to go into any specifics and answer any questions.
Anybody before we open it?
I guess my interpretation of this is the town attorney rendered an opinion, got with the municipalities. We created a policy, which means we have less motions whenever they come forward. And as long as they're complying with FCC, they have to comply with all these, and we don't have to, what individually address each of these items now, or what?
Well, so the wireless facilities would be reviewed by the town. There is still an application process. It follows a different permitting timeline than other types of installations, but the FCC, like I said, has very strict standards for how we can regulate them, like how far we can go regulating them. And we cannot materially prohibit or inhibit their installation. We have to allow them to be installed. We can have reasonable and objective regulations on where they go and what they look like.
So there's still gonna be a site plan review, and we can say, hey, we need that fence and all that stuff?
Yeah, so the small wireless is a different type of technology than like the monopoles that we commonly are reviewing with the planning board. These are more often in the right of way, so it will be less often that the planning board is looking at them, but the town council will be reviewing them on a regular basis. They're commonly installed on telephone poles and existing utility poles in the right of way.
I got nothing. Anybody out in the audience have any questions or concerns? Come on up, state your name and address for the record, and say what you gotta say.
Mike Eager, Counselor, District 1. Hey, I'm one of the people that push for this. This came from a conversation with me in the mayor's office, and it really came to a point after the town approved 2 of these cell towers right in front of April House apartment across from the Big E. The bones of this is good. I ask that you approve it, because the way it is, because it's on a public way, these are much easier to approve, and we don't have the approval of the larger towers. The one thing I wish we could have a debate about, but I still think we should approve it and amend it in the future, is with the example of the April House apartment building. both these towers were built 30 feet from the building, or less than 30 feet. And when you the purpose of this ordinance is to spread these out so it's decentralized. The networks where needed, but it also protects one or two people, one area from getting too much of this type of facility. A simple setback of 50 to 75 feet would go a large way to that, because right now the pattern of the telecoms is they tend to target apartment buildings because they're less politically active, and they put them as because they're in my district. We don't have the large frontage of some of the more affluent areas. Same thing with District 2. All those are very compact lots. So if you put it on a tree belt, you're putting it in less than 50 feet from someone's house. And I believe the guidance is set up to allow us to waive any of these requirements to make it more easy for the telecoms to build these where it's needed, but not having a setback makes that difficult to ask them to. In the case of the April House, a suitable location was right across the street on a big east side, but because we didn't have that in here, we couldn't ask them to do that. That said, the bones of this is very good. It is a start. We need this. We need something to help regulate this, because it's basically the fact that we have zero rules. They're taking advantage of us. So please vote to approve.
Thank you. So Allison, just to clarify, I mean, we wanted to do something with setback, we can't because that FCC setting that up, right?
So
Because of the right of way.
yeah, we do have in here a minimal separation between poles and some separation from curb lines and intersections and so on. And basically, if they can prove that there's no viable alternative, or we can't propose a viable alternative, then we can't prevent them from doing that.
Or we can address it at that point and.
Yeah.
No, we can't.
Well,
be-
they'll have to.
Sorry.
Yeah, so they'll still have to submit utility petitions to the town council with plans and specifications and so on. So, like I said, it's unlikely that you'll be dealing with this very often, but the town council will.
Go ahead.
So, sorry, I spoke out of turn.
That's all right.
Yes, so what's happened is the telecoms say, well, you don't have a rule or regulation that says we can't build it here. And you know what? They're right. And they kind of like bully us to put that cell tower there. All they needed to do was probably run one wire to one of the utility poles across the street, and then they could have a suitable location closer to where the network use is. But because it's easier to set up at the apartment building because it's less protests, okay? And this is what gets the fire under me, is they're building it in front of buildings that are less likely to come up to the council and say, this isn't right. And when we put it in an affluent area, there's a fight. And the telecoms know that, and they're taking advantage of it. And if we could have a small setback of 50 to 75 feet, I don't know if we can do it tonight, but would like to have the debate to push the conversation forward in the future. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else in the audience got anything? Nothing? Anybody else up here? Close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Public hearing's closed. So we're making a recommendation, is that what we're doing?
Yes, so you're making a recommendation on the ordinance amendment, which is, like I said, a title change to a section and a reference back to this policy, and then a motion to adopt or not the policy.
Move to favorably recommend the zoning ordinance amendment to change the title of section 311.6 to wireless communication facilities outside the right-of-way, and add a subsection which will refer applicants to the proposed small wireless facility design rules and regulation policy.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, all set. Okay.
No, I still need a motion on the policy.
Yeah, the second one.
What did I do?
We're moving two issues.
Move to adopt the proposed small wireless design, facility design rules and regulation policy.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, now I think we're all set. Okay, we are gonna skip down to 6:10. Prosati, I don't know, Group LLC, special permit application submitted in accordance with 300-5.3, Table 5-2, Table of Use Regulations for the construction of a drive-through associated with a new 5,813 square foot marketplace/convenience store and gas station at the property located at 1672 Memorial Ave, 1718 Memorial Ave, and 13 River Street in the Business A zoning district.
Good evening. Procacciani Group, for the record. Took me a while,
Say it
too.
again?
Procacciani.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna remember.
took me a
that.
while, too. Yep.
Just kidding.
And I work for them.
Petitioner, that's what I'm gonna call you.
Right, that's fine. Good evening. Peter Yeski, actually with First Hartford Realty Corporation. We are a preferred developer for Neon Marketplace, the Procacciani Group. Here tonight, as you said, for site plan, a special permit application for a 5813 square foot, we call it a food and energy marketplace, called Neon Marketplace, on 1.57 acres on the corner of Memorial and River. You folks probably know it. I think we were just talking about the neighborhood. So a little bit about Neon. Neon is a ground-up reimagining of a convenience store. They place a great deal of emphasis on fresh foods, high-quality food and beverages, things you typically don't see in a convenience store, but in that convenient format. So every Neon Marketplace is centered around an 800-degree brick oven where they make made-to-order brick oven pizzas, brick oven sandwiches, breakfast sandwiches. In addition to the food, they have a premium coffee line, both self-serve and full-serve drinks that you'd see in like a Starbucks, for example, can be ordered at a Neon Marketplace, and it's all full-serve with a barista or, again, self-serve if you're in a hurry. Neons also do offer the typical assortment of products you'd see in a typical convenience store. That does include fuel. We are proposing 6 dispensers here, which Phil Henry will talk to a little bit in a minute. And finally, we are proposing, and I believe that's the basis for the special permit tonight, is the drive-through. And that is really born out of the lesson that I think all retailers learned during the COVID-19 pandemic, that God forbid we ever get in that situation again. That's a good thing to have. So included for customer convenience and for hopefully never again scenarios like we just went through. Neon does have 2 new concept locations currently open. They're in Seekonk, Massachusetts, so down 195, and in Warwick, Rhode Island, right by the TF Green Airport. They're under construction in Providence. They're under construction in Freetown, Mass. They have about a dozen in the permitting pipeline, which would include this one. And the goal is in 5 years to have 150 stores within Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Procacciani Group is the parent company. They are the capital behind them, some other sources as well. Procacciani is an experienced hotel developer. They've been in Rhode Island for generations and own hotels throughout the United States and do a great job operating them. So with me tonight, I have Phil Henry, who I'll turn it over to now from Civil Design Group. He's a civil engineer on the project. For questions, I also do have Jeff Bandini from McMahon Associates, who prepared the traffic study you saw, and Mark Beglane with Bacon and Wilson. So without further ado, Phil, you want to?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Phil Henry with Civil Design Group. We're the civil engineers on the project. What I'll do tonight briefly is just review the existing conditions and the layout and some of the site amenities, and then I'm happy to answer any specific questions that you folks may have. All right, so I was told that those TVs would be on. Let's see. Okay.
You guys got it on yours?
We have it on ours
Oh,
here,
I
so.
got it.
Okay.
Okay, so you guys can see.
Yep, we got them on our individuals.
Okay, so for site reference, I'll use my mouse. You guys can see my mouse move too as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. The site's located at the intersection of River Street, which is on the left-hand side here, and then Memorial Ave, which is on the bottom half of the screen here. Here's the intersection of River and Memorial that was just reconstructed. The site is this sort of odd-shaped here, and it totals about 1.5 acres. Keep in mind that the existing condition is some remnants of old structures, mostly it's asphalt and some sort of remnants of some gravel areas. So there's no appreciable landscaping on the property. In fact, there isn't any. And there's one drainage structure here that drains or that collects a small runoff area from the site, and that discharges into the existing infrastructure on River Street. However, much of the site just drains out onto Memorial Ave, so there's no treatment control, quality control, or anything of that, or even peak flow mitigation. The proposed improvements includes removing all of the asphalt and all the on-site items that are there. Let me just zoom out just a touch here. And we propose to construct what you see here. And what you see here is a 5,800 square foot building, marketplace, that will face Memorial Ave. 6 fueling dispensers here, or 6 fueling islands, so 12 fueling dispensers. And as you can see, they're stacked 3 and 3, double dive, so to speak. So there's 3 across here, three across here, 6 islands, 12 dispensers, obviously 1 on each side. And that will be supported by 48 spaces, which are located throughout the site. There's a number here, there's a number here, there's spaces right in front of the store, and then there's this side parking here, and then there's also some additional parking at the intersection. What you see here is sort of an evolution of working with the planning staff, although I believe the original concept plan was fairly similar to what you see here. We are proposing a full access driveway on River Street here, and the plans do say a full access curb cut on Memorial Ave here, but as we had noted, or as we had just noted, the improvements on Memorial Ave, there's a median that was just recently extended past this driveway. So this will be a right-in, right-out curb cut because of the physical obstruction in the median. So this will be a right-in, right-out. There won't be any geometric changes to the curb cut, and in fact, all of our design elements with respect to the right-of-way, we tried to minimize that, obviously because of the new construction. We tried to stay out of the street where we can. There's no trenches across the street, so we tried to do a good job of utilizing the existing services that are there. There will be some sidewalk reconstruction because those who are familiar with the site, there's probably 5 or 6 curb cuts that DOT had put back in that we're going to be closing out. So we're just going to be filling in those curb cuts, so to speak. So filling in the sidewalk, raising the curb so there's a physical hindrance there. So what is left is a right-in, right-out, and a full access. So coming back on site, on the right-hand side here, you'll see underground storage tanks will obviously house the fuel. And then the drive-through window is located mid-center along the rear of the building. This inside lane here is the drive-through lane. So folks would enter on this left lane, order at the menu board here, and then circulate here at the window, and then would exit in this one-way drive aisle between this landscape area and this structure area. There's also an outside lane just for circulation, free flow circulation, whether somebody wants to circulate back to get out on River Street, or if somebody's in the drive-through lane and then decides to get out. It's just good practice to have a bypass lane. In the far right corner is the solid waste trash recycle area that will be fully enclosed in a 6-foot-high opaque fence. There will also be an air tower as well in the
A what?
lower
I'm
right
sorry?
corner.
A what?
An air tower, just to, refuel your air. There will also be, and lastly, there'll be 2 freestanding signs that we're proposing, one at each entrance, one located here and one located here. You'll see that this site meets all of the landscape setbacks. In total, we're increasing the landscape area by a half an acre, or just over a half an acre. And we're focusing most of that landscaping along the exterior areas of the site. And I will put up the landscape rendering that the landscape architect prepared, and then I'm happy to answer some questions. So this is basically a stripped-down site plan that tries to focus on the landscape area, the greenery area that we're proposing, the grass area, and then all of the shrubs and trees that we're proposing as well.
Do you have any pictures of an existing?
Existing store?
Yeah.
Do we have pictures?
Okay, so this, well, that's, let me get one that's actually built, so, these are renderings that I'm putting up now, if you can see that.
That's good enough.
Okay, so that's a pretty good idea. There are, that's not what you want. Let me see if I can get the actual wall location.
Yeah, that one on the left is pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's the best we're gonna do tonight. Sorry, I'm on the spot here. Let's do that one, yeah. I don't know if everyone can see that, if that's big enough on the screen, but
Yeah, we can see it on
that
that.
would be their, that is their, either their free, I think that's Freetown with the Amazon in the background, but that's a rendering of what the store
And
is.
that's pretty much what this would be?
Yes, sir.
Yes. In the packet, there should be black and white building
Yeah.
elevations. So
Yeah,
that's a representation of what that color room looks like.
typically the same colors and,
Yep.
anything else before we?
No, that's it. I'm happy to answer questions if you'd like.
Go ahead, Sue.
When they go through the drive-through and they're coming out, are you trying to lead them to go back out onto Memorial Ave, or to take that sharp turn to go onto River Street? Because I'm thinking if somebody's on Memorial Ave, because they have to take a right turn, but they want to go the other way, they're going to try to go on River Street, so they get the red light to take a left. So I'm just trying to figure out are you trying to like flow it so that they're going out on Memorial Ave, or it really doesn't matter?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so as we learn, you're only going to be able to take a right turn at it, so you won't be able to take a left turn at a Memorial Ave. So if you want to travel east on Memorial from the site, you'll need to go through the signal at the intersection via River Street. So needless to say, though, when you're in a drive-through situation, and you guys can see my mouse, yep. So we had absent of your question here, we designed this such that when you leave the drive-through, you could go straight and cross this striped area here, because in theory, this outside lane should not be used. Yes, it will be used by somebody passing through, but there shouldn't be any stagnant cars there. So you could go left here, or if somebody was getting food and then wanted to get gas, then they would stay in that inside lane and come right back out here. And then, or, somebody can come in here and then make a right turn, obviously. So The idea with these convenient type sites is to give people access and multiple options to circulate around the site. And this site is actually one of the larger sites that we'll see. 1.5 acres is, in New England now, is fairly large for a gas station. So we usually don't have this luxury, so.
Perfect, you answered my question, thank you.
Hold on. Ryan, do you have something?
Yeah, so you guys had said you're making brick oven pizzas and fresh food. Like, what are people ordering through the drive-through? Like, is it more of just like online pickup? Is that inside, or are they going through just like sort of the fast food through the drive-through?
I'll try to answer some of this from just my experience.
Like, is somebody going to order a pizza and wait for it in the drive? I don't know what we're looking
That
at.
question was actually asked at a recent hearing, and I'll tell you what the client said, because they were there at that one. They said depending on the type and the number of slices or pie, that it could be made within a minute or two, say a regular slice. But obviously, if somebody's ordering a pizza or a pie, they would have to wait a little bit. But it's my understanding that this oven has the ability to cook food very quickly. If
So
that makes sense.
theoretically, anything on the menu can be ordered through the
Yes.
drive-through?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think if it rises to the occasion that there's gonna be a wait, we have ample parking for folks to wait. Typically, what we see here, on sites that have more of a depth, you would typically see parking spaces in the back that would allow folks just to pull out. But on this site, because it has the width, not so much, because it is oddly shaped, even though the area is good, we actually were able to provide a double row of side parking. So I would imagine that over time, this parking spaces here becomes a potential waiting area for someone that wants to stay in their car. And obviously, you always have the option of going in, too.
All right.
Not the person that's ordering we're worried about, it's the 5 of us behind them that are
Yeah.
waiting for the pizza to get cooked, so.
Yeah.
I guess it's more of a policy that they would have, that if it's gonna be a
Exactly.
5-10 minute wait, they're gonna ask them to go put the
Exactly,
parking
yeah,
spot.
and I think the town and the applicant would align on that. They don't want people waiting in line. I think they're gonna take that order and say, okay, we'll see you in 5 minutes.
Yeah, we always just get the traffic questions, and I know
Yeah.
this is a big parking lot, but it seems to snake around.
Yeah,
And I
this
just-
site has pretty good queue. I mean, this site is, we don't see too many of these.
Do you have a number queued
I believe seven cars can fit here
in that one?
in the inside lane.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it would be crazy if it ever got out into the street. I guess someone's gonna bring it up, so I guess I will. What's gonna happen during the Big E, and, we got 852 cars lined up to get a slice of brick oven pizza because it's too expensive across the street. I mean, have we thought about that? Have we?
I sense that's a traffic question.
You can take it whichever way you want. I just want an answer.
Well, with this curb cut being right in, right out, obviously left turns are not an option. So that's a plus from like a traffic management standpoint. Obviously at some point, I mean, obviously this site, I know you were exaggerating, Mr. Chairman, but obviously this site cannot handle 852 cars. So,
It was a little exaggeration, not a lot.
so
Have you ever been down there during the Big E?
I
You
have
personally?
not, I have not. So,
It just, I'm not sure you could do anything besides close the drive-through during the Big E, but I'm not sure that's an option. I'm just wondering if you guys have talked about it, thought about it.
Yeah, we're obviously going to have to take that as it comes. We have 2 stores open now, the client does, and the drive-through is still something they're tweaking. As Phil said, what we don't want to do is have people waiting in line for 15 minutes because it defeats the purpose. Frankly, what they really want to do is pull you into the store because, A, you tend to spend more money in a convenience store if you go inside and buy gum and water and all the things you didn't think you need, but now you do. And, B, again, it's just bad business to have a notorious drive-through that sits. As Phil said, I think your code is 6. We have 7 now. So obviously, hopefully that more than handles it non-Big E time. And then, during the Big E time, I think, we'll have to just keep a real close eye on that. And if it becomes an issue, maybe there's a way we'll have to revisit it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just a quick question. I noticed that a lot of businesses, including some convenience stores that are selling the higher-end food that's fresh, are having an app, and you order it on the app and pay for it, and then there's a time that you pick it up. Is that something that you do? I'm just curious.
Yes, it is. I believe they either have one or it's in development. I'd have to look that up, but I know that has been discussed. They also do partner with the Uber Eats and the DoorDashes and everybody else. So there is the third component to this, which is you may not have a customer at all. They may be sitting at home ordering it on their phone, and it gets delivered to them. So, yeah. Thanks.
Did you have some, Beth? Go ahead.
Couple of things. The first is just the Big E issue. I know at that particular time, we do hire several West Springfield police officers, so I'm sure it's something that you could speak to the department about, should you see that that's a problem. The second thing I wanted to know is whether or not you carry, or would you be applying for a beer and wine license there? Or is that something that's just not on the table for you?
Yeah, I'm not sure. They do take it on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, if they're permitted to, it's something that they would generally go for. They do design the stores. We have this issue. So Connecticut is not a beer and wine state, for example. So we design a non-beer and wine store. In Massachusetts, which I believe is, in some instances, they would seek to have a beer and wine cooler. Yep.
Thank you.
I don't know that we have any available currently,
Yeah, and again, I don't want to speak too much for the client. I don't think that's a deal breaker. But if there was a permit available, then certainly they would be something that I think they would be interested in pursuing.
Thank you. Anybody else? We'll open it up. Jay, good? Anybody in the audience got any questions or comments or concern? Gentleman in the white, come on up. You were the first hand up. Name and address for the record, and
My name is Nick Bossio. I'm one of the trustees, and I manage the property that is the condominium complex that abuts the rendering, called Wentworth Estates. We understand it's own business. We understand years ago that used to be a gas station. We just want to know, is there an area, a berm or something going up with, maybe arbors, 4 feet, 6 feet out? We just put a privacy fence up, 6 feet, 450 feet down from Memorial all the way to the back of the river. And our concern would be where the gas tanks are going to be, where the solid waste building would be, in proximity to our buildings where the residents are. But what's more important, I think, to us, would be something that allows a little more privacy than to hear horns blowing or people. I don't know if you guys have done a study, a traffic study maybe, how many people per day, how many cars coming in, per hour, stuff like that. Not that we're opposed to it, we just want some protection for our residents, that's all. That's all I have.
okay. Can you put that colored rendering back up?
Are you asking for the rendering or like a Google Maps?
No,
we had the
you know what I'm talking, not the colored thing you had with the landscape and everything on it. Yeah,
Yeah, so there's,
So on the right-hand side, where the rendering is,
yeah, there's,
the backside.
gentlemen, you gotta, unfortunately, you gotta talk one at a time and at the mic, because the people at home can't hear you. So you don't have to sit down, just get one at a time and at the mic.
yeah, so let me answer your question. So the landscape area, which is shown here in green, sir,
Right.
varies from 8 feet all the way out to, to 20 feet, and then 8 feet here, and then it varies, and then it trims back to 8 feet. But as you can see, the darker green area are the tree shrubs in that particular area. And in total, there's over 50 trees that are concentrated, particularly in this back right area. And as you can see, there is tree lined all the way down to, almost all the way down to Memorial Avenue.
We've cut, on the right-hand side, in the back is an apartment complex.
Yep.
On the right-hand side is the condo complex.
Yep.
And on the upper right is where the pool is. All those trees we cut.
These are new trees.
Your trees?
These are new trees that we're putting in.
Oh, sorry. Okay,
And then,
my mistake.
and then the solid, the trash and recycle bin area will be enclosed in a 6-foot-high fence, so you certainly won't see it.
Okay,
And it's also double housed in a vegetated buffer as well. So
all right,
it's certainly an improvement over what's there today.
Yeah.
So,
all right,
and these trees will most likely be planted at 6 feet height.
yep,
So, and then obviously they'll grow from there.
okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
That answer
Thank
you?
you. That answered my
Good,
question.
thank you.
Thank you.
I think you were next.
Doesn't matter. My name's Ryan Ashley. I work for West River Properties, which owns the apartments that are directly behind the gas station, or behind the store, actually. Two things that I'm curious about are, when you're coming around that driveway, the lights from the cars are gonna be going right in my tenants' windows. And any noise, of course, that are, loud cars, loud music, is gonna be definitely heard. So will there be a privacy fence that goes along that stretch back there that goes out to River Street?
So so the answer is, we're not proposing a privacy fence currently, because we thought there is a fence along there now. Is it a chain link fence?
Mm-hmm.
It's a chain link fence, okay. So there is vegetation that we're proposing here as well that will obviously help with the headlights, but if we wanted to propose something more opaque, we can certainly add in a solid 6-foot-high fence.
I think that would benefit our tenants. The second thing that I was curious about was your entrance on River Street. You're gonna have a sign right there. You said you're gonna have a sign on that entrance and the entrance on Memorial Ave. How tall will that sign be? How bright will that sign be? And is it going, again, shining right into my tenants' windows?
So on the signage, we do intend to comply with the town regulations. I don't know it off the top of my head. I think it's 13 feet there, if I'm not mistaken. There's overhead wires out there, so we're limited with what we can do with signage anyway, and the speed limit's obviously lower than Route 5 or some other areas where I think larger signs come into play. But no, we intend to comply with the town regs, so we're not, at this time at least, we're not intending on seeking any relief for signage, so.
Okay.
It would be a, sorry, I don't have an example of it tonight, but it would be your typical stone encased monument sign. We don't do for example, if you look at the TV screen, we don't have a big whitewash sign. It's back channel lit letters, so we try to minimize glare on the signage.
Not too bright. Is that what you're getting at?
That's what I'm getting at, yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Set? Thank you. Anybody else? Come on up. You know what, hold on, someone will give you the mic. You can stay, can somebody bring her the mic? Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I think I'm the only resident of this
Name
neighborhood.
and address.
I think I'm the only resident, my name, Eileen Stopa, Colony Road. I'm a owner-resident of a townhouse there for 35 years. So I want to deal with the quality of life issues because I'll be living there. Is it a given that this property's already been sold to this company?
I don't think anything's finalized, but that's beyond our,
The property's actually going to be a ground lease. So our client is not going to actually own the property. The existing underlying property owner will still own it, and he is leasing it back to us for many years, I should say.
you understand that?
I couldn't hear.
So basically, the
but-
person who owns the lot right now is gonna continue to own it, they're just gonna land lease them. So they'll lease them the land and, for a long-term lease.
I just want to point out a couple facts. There's already 2 gas stations on Memorial Avenue, one with a convenience store. There's 2 convenience stores on River Street, which is a short street. There's also a supermarket on Memorial Avenue and 2 liquor stores on Memorial Avenue. And Big Y also sells fresh-made pizza, hot. So we're duplicating a lot of services. I'd like to see a different variety and something really more aesthetic That would be my ideal, because a lot of people enter from that bridge are not from the area, and the first thing they're going to see is a quickie food place or a gas station, That's not the best presentation I'd like to see representing West Springfield. For the gentleman that's never been there during the fair, I just want to point out it's the third largest fair in the country now. So it brings over 1 million visitors. That parcel has been parking thousands of cars during each fair, thousands. Where are those cars going to park?
Maybe the residents will be happy again. They'll be able to park in their yards like they
They're
used to.
already full. They're already full. I mean, people park on the sidewalks now, never mind, where they could pay to park. Plus, there's no porta potties outside the Big E Fairgrounds, so we see what's going on. My first thought when I heard about this was, well, one other thing is about the neon lights. I know you're going to plant trees on that side abutting Wentworth Estates, but will they still see the neon lights in people's units?
So just to clarify, the name of the business is Neon, doesn't
Yeah.
mean they're gonna have neon lights.
But I've seen different bright colors in the pictures they showed of another place that they own, and it had neon blue and purple.
I don't, do you guys utilize neon lights? I think that's a thing of the past.
Neon, no, like the type of light, no,
Right.
but the rendering that we showed, the building signage
Is lit up.
are single letters that are like a
Backlit.
light blue. That's what, yeah. But that's just the building signs. They're not intended to emit light. They're just intended to backlight it.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Is that what you're talking about, the letters on the building there?
No, there was a picture before that.
I think there was another image that was it was unrelated to the gas station that I think popped up accidentally.
It said neon on the sign above it, but it had neon blue and purple, and I'm sure that shines a lot in different directions, the brightness.
So, to try and speed things up, they have to meet any of our restrictions. So they can't have these super bright lights, they can't have flashing lights. They have to meet our requirements in the town. As far as neon lights, it's a little, it kind of gets in your brain that, well, neon, that's not, we think of neon as these neon lights and driving us crazy. That's not what that is. But they will have to meet any regulations we have as far as light shining onto other property. We have a lot of, they have to have cut sheets that show the light's gonna go at a certain angle so it doesn't go on the other people's property. Just like he was talking about the lights going on the fence, they were gracious to offer a 6-foot or whatever, a solid fence to solve that problem. So, it sounds like they're willing to work with us, but they do still have to meet all the requirements. As far as your ideas, what you'd like to see there, that's great. I'm sure there's plenty of us that would like to see that. Unfortunately, if they meet the requirements, they can do it, We're here to make sure that, they don't put those neon lights and so on and so forth, but.
There is no representation from the Big E here, which I'm disappointed. One of my thoughts was, and you could make it aesthetically nicer if the Big E bought that property and made it taxable for the city, it's a non-agricultural parcel, and built a parking garage there and shuttle bus people. It would pay for itself just during the fair. But they could also use it to park cars for events, say, downtown Springfield, which they have big events, and then shuttle bus people downtown. And that would alleviate thousands of cars looking for that parcel during the Big E. That's one of my thoughts. I was disappointed the Big E's not here, but maybe you can pass it along.
I'm sure someone's watching, I would assume, but, again, they're all great
there.
ideas. They're all great ideas, it's just, that's nothing that's proposed, you know? If it
Yeah.
was proposed, then
Yeah.
we'd have to look at it, but right now, this is what's
Because
being.
now, I'm sorry,
That's all right.
I had another thought. Across the street, that empty parcel that they've been parking thousands of cars on Agawam side, next, abutting their city hall, it's been printed that the mayor has kind of like agreed to allowing another Starbucks with a drive-through there, right? So, like, we need another coffee place, you know, but there's thousands of cars that parked on that parcel as well during the fair. And if attendance is not going to go down after the pandemic, it's going to go up.
Yep.
Plus, they have a lot of other big events going on
Yep.
there during the whole year. So that's about it. Thank you for your time.
Anytime. Thank you. You grab her mic. Thanks. Anybody else in the audience got any comments, concerns? Nobody?
What are the hours of operation?
Proposed 24 hours. It matches I think it's FL Roberts up the street is also 24 hours.
Nobody else? Any town comments? I almost forgot that.
So the DPW provided a couple comments about some things that'll need to be resolved either prior or during construction related to like water valves and whatnot, and the applicant was fine with that. And the License Commission gave their standard comment regarding the need for a fuel license, fuel storage license, and a common victualler because they'll be serving food. One thing I wanted to add, I didn't catch it before, but it was said here, the plan has 2 freestanding signs, but that district only allows 1, so they'll either have to narrow it down to 1 or apply to the Board of Appeals for a variance to get the second one. That would be another public hearing with notice out to residents, so it won't happen unexpectedly for anybody.
That's fine, Allison. I'm sorry if we misinterpreted that. I'll talk to the client whether they can live with 1 or want to go the variance route.
If you're gonna go with 1, keep it away from his driveway, will you? All right. Nobody else? No more town comments? Health, nothing? Public safety, fire? Wow.
I would like to add that it's preferred that folks wanting to go the other direction on Memorial Ave have to use the intersection and the signalized light. We have problems at the FL Roberts with folks cutting across 4 lanes of traffic, taking a left, and lots of accidents there. So this is much better.
Oh, okay. Anybody else? Close the hearing, public?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, public hearing is closed. Now, before we go any further, are we gonna reopen for a site plan review, or did we kinda kill it all at once, both of them at once? I know we gotta do 2 separate votes, but,
You have to open the site plan review hearing, yes. And you can either close this one and vote, or open the site plan and vote on both of them in
you guys
sequence.
have a preference? Do you guys have a preference?
My suggestion is we just open up the site plan. We've already made the presentation, you know,
Right.
if there are any additional questions on the site plan.
Okay.
And then you can vote on each one separately.
Yep.
But that way you met the requirements and done it. So I think
got
that's
it.
probably the easiest way to do it.
Okay. You guys are good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, 6:15, oh boy. Prakachani Group LLC, site plan review application submitted for the construction of a new 5,813 square foot marketplace convenience store with 6 fueling stations, electric charging stations, and associated site improvements at the property located at 1672 Memorial Ave, 1718 Memorial Ave, and 13 River in Business A zoning district. The only thing I see different, no one talked about the electric charging station, so I knew I read that somewhere, but why don't you just, a quick touch on that?
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up because it is in the narrative, as you pointed out. So Neon has a relationship with Tesla right now, and what they do is when they get far along in the process with these sites, they do open it up to Tesla, and Tesla will actually review the site. They'll look at EV ownership in the area, things like that, proximity to highways, and they'll let the client, Neon here, know if there's interest or not. I talked to my contact there this afternoon. My contact at Neon, he tells me that they are actively talking to Tesla. Tesla has expressed interest in this, but nothing has been finalized to that end. So we don't have an agreement in place for electric charging, but it is something that at every site they certainly desire. Because, again, we're that food and energy marketplace trying to move away from, trying to stay competitive in the next generation. So in all likelihood, they will come to agreement with Tesla. Tesla's 90%, 95% of the electric car market right now, so they're the obvious choice, at least in our minds, for the superchargers at this location.
Did I read diesel somewhere?
Yeah, they do have diesel. I just want to clarify, it is not high-speed diesel, meaning you're not going to have an 18-wheeler. If you did have an 18-wheeler trying to fill up there, it'd take them about 3 hours. Okay. It's if you have a diesel pickup or a Volkswagen or something like that.
That's why I brought it up. I want to clarify that it's not going to be a truck stop.
No, this is not designed to accommodate large trucks.
Thank you. Anybody before I open it up to the public? Anybody in the audience have any more questions? We got a second hearing open. Going once, going twice, gone.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Closed. So we have two separate voting issues, a special permit and a site plan review, if you guys would like to take them on.
Yeah, I jotted down here, I'm in favor. I think we can add in that they put the solid fence. I liked the idea of having like an actual solid, like use the word opaque fence, so that the residents didn't get the headlights from a drive-through all night in their window.
That be put in as a condition, Alice?
Yeah.
So you put it in as another condition.
Right, yeah, I think she's gone, but I think her concerns, they're valid. This seems to be, I've seen these, they're a little different in the sense that they're a little more upscale. It's not just a typical convenience store. It's sort of a trend right now when you go to these Wawas and things like that where you can get food, and this is a little nicer. So I think it's actually an improvement to the area, and as long as they put this, put these fencing to protect the residents, I think they'll be all right.
Good. You ever see, not to change subject, you ever see those Buckeye ones?
Yeah.
Like 100 and something pumps? It's
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. Ice cream shops in them and everything, it's crazy. Sorry, go ahead. I don't know why we bring that up, but. Anybody gotta move?
I agree with Ryan. I think it's a great plan. It's gonna be nice to see something on that property. The only notes that I had were echoing the opaque fence. I wasn't sure how to word it. Whether it was gonna be just the I don't know what you call it, the back of the property. It's northwest, I guess. The northwest.
Well, there's already one, if you're looking at it from Memorial Ave, there's already one on the right side that
That's
you
okay.
guys put up, right? Right.
The rear of the building. There we go. All right.
The abutting property is West River Properties. You could just reference that.
Do you have a preference?
A private fence along the abutting property line of West River Properties.
It's definitely gonna be an issue for Big E traffic, but
Yep.
I'm not gonna punish a business owner
No.
just
I
because
mean,
his lot is used for,
Unfortunately, it's their issue.
right?
Well, I mean, it could, if it's handled properly, it could be to your benefit, but, whoops, I forgot the public hearing's closed.
All right. Anything else? No. All right.
We'll do one at a time.
Yeah. Move to approve the special permit application submitted in accordance with section 305.3, table 5.2, table of use regulations for the construction of a drive-through associated with the new marketplace convenience store and gas station at the property located at 1672 Memorial Avenue, 1718 Memorial Avenue, and 13 River Street in the Business A zoning district.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, approved.
Move to approve the site plan review application submitted for the construction of a new 5,813 square foot marketplace convenience store with 6 fueling stations, 12 fueling positions, electric charging stations, and associated site improvements at the property located at 1672 Memorial Avenue, 1718 Memorial Avenue, and 13 River Street in the Business A zoning district, subject to 16 standard conditions and 1 additional condition stating an opaque fence shall be installed along the property line of West River Properties. Did I have that right?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, approved. You're all set. Good luck. Where do we go here? Okay, we are moving back up to the 6:05. Mayor Reichelt, Councilor Powers, Griffin, and Eager. The hearing is to consider a petition for a zoning ordinance amendment to the following sections of the zoning ordinance. 300-2.1, terms defined by removing home occupation and adding definition for home business. 300-5.3, Table 5-1, Table of Allowed Uses, Residential Zoning Districts, and Table 5-2, Table of Allowed Uses, Business Zoning Districts, by removing the use home occupation and adding the use home business class 1 as permitted in the Residence A, Residence A1, Residence A2, Residence B, Residence C, Neighborhood Business, Business A, Business A1, Business B, Business B1, and Central Business Zoning Districts, and adding the use Home Business Class BB, BB1, and CB zoning districts. 300-9.2, Table 9-4, permitted sign uses by prohibiting signs for home businesses, and 300-10.0, home occupations by replacing the current regulations with the new section titled 300-10.0 home businesses, including new standards and conditions. Whew. Name
You
and
pretty
ad-
much covered everything, so I mean,
Name-
I don't even need to stand up here now.
Who are you? Well, I've never seen you come to one of these before.
It's been a
thank-
while. I've been here before.
Thanks for coming.
I usually get a very hostile audience, though, when I come before you guys.
Yeah, well, we can work on that.
Well,
Name and
first of all,
address-
I
name
haven't
and
been to
address
a
for the
meeting in a
record.
while, and I just want to thank all of you for what you do. It's very important to listen to residents and then take their concerns in the heart as we kind of deal with businesses and move forward. I would rather that be a Starbucks, but a gas station and turn that dirt lot into a business as you come over the bridge is going to be fantastic, especially with the work that the state has done over that bridge. So, and if Agawam gets a Starbucks, that's great for them. We had one first, so I'm happy. But this is our second time now with home-based businesses. I know we tried this back in, I think, 2020. And then after hearing your concerns, we kind of took it back, worked with the council, worked with your comments, and kind of changed it around. For me, the biggest thing of this, and I look at it as two parts. Updating home-based businesses and bringing it kind of into the 21st century post-COVID with what's allowed in the businesses generally at home, and then dealing with commercial vehicles. As Frank and Jay, for me, this has been something I've been dealing with for 15 years. We've tried and failed a number of times. I don't think there's a perfect solution. What I'm doing here is basically copying what East Long Meadow does and saying that you can have a 1-ton commercial vehicle on your property, not screened, in your driveway. And a 1-ton vehicle is basically anything that you can personally buy on your own. An F-350 essentially is a 1-ton. I have an F-350. You can buy it yourself. A lot of people do just because they're nice big trucks. And you can put a regular plate on it and drive it on the road. You can do the same thing with a van. When you put a commercial plate on it, that's when it becomes illegal. And it's hard for tradesmen, guys that are on call 24/7 that need to park in their house that want to be home, asking them to go home and then go back to their business when they're on call and come back is very difficult. It's hard, even for our DPW guys. We're working to have some of our deputies be able to bring their vehicle home so that when they have to go on a call, they're not coming back to the yard and then going back out. It's an inconvenience for consumers. It's an inconvenience for them. So when we look at this, if you're not happy with a commercial vehicle, I don't think there's a perfect solution. I think this is kind of a happy compromise. We don't really enforce it the way it is now because, people gotta eat. They work. I don't think it's a huge inconvenience, but that's me, like individually, how I look at it. I can't speak for everyone in the community. But what I can say, I think we've tried for a long time. This is one of the things I want to accomplish as mayor is to fix this and make it so that people can park there without having to worry about their neighbor calling on them because they pissed them off that day. So this is a big thing, but again, it's two pieces. So if you're not comfortable with commercial vehicles and you can't figure out a compromise, I would still want you to move home-based businesses forward to make sure that we're covering everyone else that's out there that is trying to have a business happen in their house, and that if you read through the ordinance, doesn't affect the rest of their neighborhood. So it doesn't increase traffic to the house, doesn't increase deliveries or anything else. In a lot of ways, it allows a home to be an entrepreneur incubator. So they try it there, and if it gets bigger, just like Comfort Bagel is a great example, they tried it at their house, they got big and successful. I wish they were in West Side, but they have a very successful place in Holyoke. So they're a good example of what was allowed, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think they had to get a variance to do that?
They did not, but the previous people who wanted to do something similar got a ruling from the Board of Appeals that was a customary home occupation.
So what we do is when these things come in, we try to, I like to cut as much red tape as possible, basically break the rules to allow these things to happen in the community because I think it's good for the community. So Comfort Bagel is a great example of what this will help moving forward. I can't pick every business. I did get a couple of calls from people saying, hey, well, I called Allison and Jay. They said this is happening. What is it going to pass? What do you think? Can I wait? And I said, well, I would encourage you to come speak before the planning board or the council. Not everyone wants to do that. But I haven't got anything negative this time. I did get a lot of positive. And I do think there's a lot of people out there that this will benefit. So I know the commercial vehicle, the whole thing, that's why I'll be up front with it. I know it's controversial. I've sat in your position before. I've been you're lucky I'm not in Frank's office with Pat Moore, debating the size of the truck and can you see it from the light. So we basically just said 1 ton. It's an F-350 is essentially what it is, a 1 ton pickup. But again, you can buy them yourself. You can put a personal plate on it. You can park it at your house and it's fine. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Really just going through it briefly, it's basically a business that expands past doctors, lawyers, dentists, the regular stuff, includes tradesmen, but really confines it to not increasing visits to the neighborhood, no changes to the properties, conforms to the neighborhood, and uses as an incubator for a business to start out. And then ideally, if it's a landscaper, they add another truck, they got to go somewhere else. And that's good for them. They're making money, and it also adds to the business that we have in the community. So it works out, in my opinion.
So you brought up landscaper. What happens with the landscaper's trailers that's got the lawn mowers and the
So
whatever?
one trailer attached to the truck is allowed
Is it
under
allowed-
this
is it-
proposal.
Now they have to be behind the front of the house, is that?
No, it doesn't have to be screened. But it needs a special permit. So anything that would require a commercial vehicle would have to come before all of you. And you would be able to put conditions on how it would work.
So, for instance, if a landscaper comes and he's got a pickup, 1 ton pickup or smaller, and he's got a landscaping trailer with, full of trailers, full of equipment, we could require it to be shielded.
Correct.
Now,
And
what
I would
about?
say, the reason we do a special permit, it's a case-by-case basis. They could have some landscapers in the same thing that have an enclosed trailer,
Yeah.
and everything's inside, versus some may have an unenclosed trailer and everything's outside. And the neighbors may come, that neighbors may not care because there's 400 feet between houses, or there could be 50 feet, and that would be up to you.
What about noise?
And again, that's why it's a special permit. What about noise? You could certainly say that you can't you don't need to start a lawnmower at your house. You could wait till you get to the first job site.
So we have some leeway.
You have a lot of control over it, yeah.
Yep, so there is a standard requirement that would apply to all home businesses, whether it's a special permit or not, that the hours of operation are limited to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and also no equipment or process shall be used in a home business that creates noise, vibration, glare, dust, odors, or electrical interference beyond that which is common to the residential characteristic of the neighborhood.
So you didn't need to come. She knows more than you do.
Well, the last time I didn't come, it was voted down 5-0, so I thought it was important that I show up this time.
I have just a couple questions, if you don't mind. I have no issues with the home business. I think that this is the time. COVID proved that people were working from home. I'm a firm believer that if someone could work from home, especially with the occupations that you put down, I don't have an issue with that. It is the vehicles that I do. How is it going to be enforced? That is one of my concerns, because you just said that people are already doing it. How is this going to be enforced afterwards that it's done correctly?
So they have to get a special permit through the planning board.
Yep, Jay would issue a violation order if they are in violation, issue a violation order and give them the remedy, which would be to come before you for a special permit.
Can I jump on your bandwagon before you take your next?
Okay.
It doesn't get enforced now. So we've got an issue where we're gonna allow this guy to put a pickup truck and his landscaping trailer there, and 2 miles over, we got a 16-wheeler, and we're not doing anything about it. So now all of a sudden, we give this guy a special permit to put his 1-ton pickup and his landscaping trailer there. How are we gonna be able to go over and give him a citation when we're not doing it for existing ones? So,
Well, the way we enforce it now is it's complaint-based, because, and again, because personally, I think it shouldn't be a big deal. I'm not a fan of enforcing it on, trades guys, HVAC guys, electricians that are just trying to make a living. But it is in our ordinance, so I'm not asking Jay and Morrow to go out and look at driveways and write tickets. But we do it now based on if there are complaints. I mean, complaints are anonymous. You can call the building department, you can call Allison, put a complaint in, and they'll investigate it. And then we'll go from there.
sorry,
Mike-
go ahead.
Oh.
You had more, right? Go ahead.
Nice,
It'll come
Frank.
back.
I have a question.
I want to stay on that same topic, though, because it seems like right now it's very clear they're not allowed to have a commercial vehicle there. So if there's a complaint, they can go down there and see a commercial vehicle. If they're given the ordinance now, and it's 7 to 7, but this guy's running his truck at 8 p.m. every night, and somebody complains, you go down there. It's a lot more difficult to enforce this, because you're not going to have people down there at 8 o'clock every night waiting for this guy to see if my complaint rings true. It's a lot harder to enforce that. So the fear is it's that we let this happen, even like a 1-ton vehicle. Now this person has a permit, so you can't make him remove the vehicle from his property, and he can still be sort of hellish to his neighbors. And it's a lot more tough to enforce there, because he has a special permit to have it there, but he's doing all sorts of things that are not in compliance with the rest of the regulations, right? The 7 to 7 and things like that. I'm just throwing out a problem.
So-
I don't have a solution.
Well, I would say for one thing now, like, if this was 15 years ago when everyone didn't have an iPhone in their pocket, it might be a different story. But we get pictures all the time from folks, videos from folks all the time of violations that are going on naming properties. We can act on that. And at the same time, we work with the police, who works 24/7, who can run by and check out what's going on and issue violations too. We allow them to do that at the same time. They can file a police report that will act on the next day.
Is it like a fine right now? I don't, if this violation was enforced, is it just like a civil fine?
Yeah, so the way violations work now is you'll get, we'll say, Ryan, hey, you can't do what you're doing, here's a letter, you got 30 days to correct it. If you don't do that, then it's $25, then it goes up to, the max we can do is $300, that's a state law.
$300 a day?
It can be a day. If you're gonna be a pain in the ass, it can be a day. Okay. But we usually try to grant leeway for everyone and give them the time to correct the action.
I mean, I guess it's like if someone's having a party at 1 o'clock in the morning, you call a police department.
Correct.
I would assume if it's after business hours of the town hall, you
Yeah.
call a
And
police.
if it's once here or there, Yeah, maybe a neighbor issue. I get noise complaints recently, and I'm not supportive of a noise ordinance because I think it's abused. And when I worked in Agawam, it's neighbor versus neighbor. You got to try to work those things out. So if it's once in a while, I get it. If it's constant, then we may have Jay stay after work one day and wait for it to happen and ticket them and deal with it. But we'll definitely work with the police on that because they are here all the time, and Jay works with them to enforce other issues too on property maintenance.
Bev?
What happens if you have a family that has two businesses, one being an HVAC and one being a landscaper? Are they both allowed to park their vehicles?
I think it's one, but I'm going to defer to Allison, who wrote the ordinance.
One commercial
So
vehicle.
it's written, one commercial vehicle at a home business property may be permitted. So the property, it's one per property.
Now that we're on that, is property just
Kind of
a
getting-
single family, or is it
What's that?
Lot.
lot? Okay.
When I got this, because this is my, like I said, the vehicles are my concern. So I did drive around and I noticed like Armstrong Street, I'm gonna say half of those driveways are shared driveways. How would this work? I mean, I went on, Angeline Street and I'm thinking, these are small streets to have, a trailer and to
Well, and
have
again,
the-
that's going to be up to you. That's a special permit. So they may come to you and you may say, and a lot of times, like, if the neighbors are okay, so there was an issue with a tractor trailer on,
Queen.
straight off Kings Highway. And the neighbors were fine with it. So instead of fighting this battle, if you guys are okay with it, like,
So every trailer would have to come to us?
any commercial vehicle would have to come to you.
Any commercial
Yeah,
vehicle?
any home business that would require a commercial vehicle, I'm gonna say a type 2 business, but I'm not sure what the exact name is. Class 2 business. Any class 2 business has to come before you for a special permit. And with the special permit, you have the latitude to require, under those conditions there, whatever you'd like, as long as they fit within those conditions, or deny it. And it allows neighbors an opportunity to, and some obviously may not want to speak up because it's a neighbor, but they may reach out via Allison to put their testimony into all of you.
So in her particular example, if we felt that, it was a shared driveway and there wasn't enough room to there was gonna be an issue with a landscaping trailer and a dump truck, we could turn it down.
Correct.
Jay?
I think this is very well written. I do think it's imperfect, but as somebody who has spent, I don't even know how many hours working on this.
We met in your office originally back in the day.
That's right, exactly.
When I was still in law school.
That's right.
We were going around measuring vehicles, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Yeah,
God.
I'm pretty sure I knew every spec there was.
We
on
debated on
vehicles.
how Jay was going to get on property to measure a vehicle, or Pat to get.
Then we were gonna
it was
take-
illegal to go do
We were
that.
gonna take F-350 emblems and put them on F-550s
Yes,
and see
yeah.
if someone could tell the
And
difference.
if we look in the
It
door,
was crazy.
look on the edge of the door to see what it
Yeah.
said. How are you going to open the door? At?
It was crazy.
I think this is really well written. I think both main subjects of this are long overdue in West Springfield. I think it's put us at a competitive disadvantage to East Long Meadow, for instance, because that's, yeah. I think the issues that I have pretty much all get resolved by the special permit process here. Every one that I could come up with, that's sort of how it resolves for me. Because there are going to be issues where we don't want that for any number of reasons that you can't even try to come up with. But the special permit process, having them come in, having the opportunity for the abutters, to come in and make their points, it really solves it for me. I think it's long overdue, and I'm all for this. So.
I kind of
Can
agree
I
with.
just say
Go ahead.
one thing? So I am in agreement with that, but these are my concerns.
I hear your butt.
My butt is, so you've got this homeowner who's got a boat, a trailer, and now they've got their business vehicle in their driveway. How do you regulate all of that? Like, who is, can you have all three of those in your driveway?
So the way like boats and campers work is it's got to be parked. You're allowed that by right, but it's got to be parked behind the front line of your house, so it has to be screened. And again, it would be a special permit, so you can go by the house and see if there's an issue, and you may require and say, hey, because you got so much stuff, it's either not gonna work for you, you gotta find a different place for your boat, or maybe you gotta find a different place for your trailer, or maybe you can garage it because it's big enough and legal. I mean, really, you can put your boat inside the garage and your car outside, and that's not an issue because their car's outside the house now. But it's a case-by-case basis. That's why we wrote it as special permit, because I can't predict all the instances that are going to happen, but I can say this is my 7th year here now as mayor and 2 years as the attorney. We very rarely deal with home-based business commercial vehicle issues. Very rare. Very rare.
And this stuff that we're all talking about is so much that we went through, like, we could just come up with specific, you brought that up, but what if he has the home business first and we approve it, and then he goes out and buys a boat and a trailer because his business is doing good? You know what I mean? You're never gonna be able.
And from a me point of view, I'm more in the, like, it's your property, do what you want with it. Like, I find campers on properties and parked in front, like, generally offensive. I lived on Kelly Drive for a while, and I remember my neighbor, like, went away with a massive camper, a Frank-sized camper. And I looked down the street and I was like, oh my God, I can see their camper's gone. I never realized they parked it in front of the house. Like, whatever, it doesn't bother me. Like, it's your property. Do what you want. But I do think we should regulate it to some sense so that if we're dealing with someone who has their car on or their diesel truck on it at 6 in the morning, they're starting their mowers, that is obnoxious. We should have some rules because they ruin it for everyone else. They ruin it for people that are doing it right. But again, we deal with very little complaints on commercial vehicles. Usually when we have them, it's because someone pissed their neighbor off for whatever reason, and technically what they're doing is illegal, so they call us.
So, hate to do this to you, but are you committing to working on the enforcement if we have issues? If we move forward?
Oh, yeah. If this is approved by you and the council, absolutely.
So we are asking for an enforcement officer position.
In the budget,
In the budget, so
That's why taxes are
come to
going
the
up.
council meeting to support that.
Yeah. Oh, no, you don't. It is a thankless job. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, especially if you live in town or.
Yeah.
No, we've had the discussion before. I mean,
Yeah.
we can work our butts off and come up with all kinds of rules, but they're useless
Yeah.
if we don't enforce them.
Well, and what we've done, and I will give Kate credit. Kate has another attorney now that runs the Blight Task Force and has really corralled the different departments that are in charge of whether it be health or building, everyone that can write a ticket, to corral them. They meet monthly, and we try to put that out there, the BTF or Blight Task Force at TOWS.org. Anyone can just email pictures and just let us know what's going on, and whether it be Charlie or Jay or Maura will go out generally that day or the next and inspect and see what's going on, and they'll come back to the attorneys and figure out what they can and can't do. And we will have, the goal is to have, because we need a weights and measures person, which isn't really a full-time job, their additional duties will be inspections throughout the community in addition to everything else that we'll have to do. So we'll have 3 inspectors just in the building department. And we've changed the way Charlie is our health inspector. He used to be funded out of CDBG, which is the Community Development Block Grant. The target area for that is the southeast quadrant, or southeast target area, whatever it is, but like the Merrick Memorial sections. Because he was paid out of that, he had to stay in there. We've now moved him into the full budget so he can go throughout the entire town. So there's now more work for him to do too. So there's really now 5 inspectors for the whole community.
So I thought of one more, which might be an issue.
This is why I came.
So we do this, we're all set. They got to get a special permit. They can park their Coca-Cola van in their driveway, or not Coca-Cola, whatever, their landscaping van in the driveway. That's great. What about the guy who works for the HVAC guy? It's not his business. He's not running the business out of his house, but he's taking home that commercial vehicle. Where's that covered? Gotcha.
Wait, can you repeat?
Because that's the issue we have now. If
So let's say you work for like a heating company.
Frank's Heating and Air Condition, or my VNF, the guy takes home a company truck and he parks in his driveway. It's illegal right now.
Well,
Like my truck commercially has to be in the garage. So those were the issues back then that started it. It was an HVAC system. The guy got ticket after ticket because his employee was taking home a regular 3/4 ton van that had Joe's HVAC on the outside. So we're kind of fixing part of it, but we're not fixing what really started it, the commercial vehicle thing.
Well,
I'm
it's
still
not
understanding the
fixing
question,
all
I
of it,
guess.
but it is fixing what it's proposing to fix. You know, I mean, that's a separate, that is separate from this. You know,
Yeah, they're not running a business from their house, or if they are, then this applies.
that's
Say
right.
again?
That's a separate
Or
issue.
if they run it from their house, but I'm gonna tell you, we got more people that take home commercial vehicles than we do that are running businesses out of their house.
Yeah, but that's not what this is intended to address. That's not what's being
I think the
proposed.
biggest drivers that deal with first, like the landscaping and other issues that are causing a disturbance, versus someone having a Coca-Cola E250 in their driveway.
Well, I think
Baby steps.
Jay brings up a good point. I guess
We're never going to fix it all at once.
no, but.
And I think when we try to do that, it doesn't work. That's what we tried to do 15 years ago, and we tried to fix every single.
Yep.
We spent more time talking about the difference between a wrap and a paint job, which I never knew you could wrap cars until then.
Neutral versus not neutral color?
Yeah.
No, I think, Jay brings up a good point, and, you know, I kind of slapping myself in the face now, because I always say, hey, we gotta deal with what's on the table, not
Yeah.
what we're, so,
I learned it from watching you.
yeah.
What a mentor.
That's right.
You know, I guess you're right. We gotta deal with what we're dealing with. We're dealing with home-based businesses, not just
Yeah.
someone bringing home a commercial vehicle.
Just disappointed to see mortuary businesses forbidden from, being able to be operated at the house.
I saw that too. I'm like, funeral homes. Yeah, why would you want a funeral home in your neighborhood?
Sorry to crush your
I
dreams.
mean, they are traditionally in like old Victorian homes.
I guess
but-
something should go without saying, but I'm glad it was said.
And I can honestly say, I don't know if I'm pleasantly surprised or just surprised that there is not one person in the audience opposed or for this. So I guess it's not as big of an issue as,
Well, I can say anecdotally, we get almost daily, somebody comes in wanting to do a business from their house and we have to tell them no. And it's frustrating, and you feel really bad telling someone that their livelihood is on the line.
And those are people trying to do it right.
Right, exactly, yeah. And that's, like I said, at least one a day, sometimes more.
so you get a lot more wanting to do it than complaining about it?
I move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The public hearing is closed.
I did not realize until tonight that we got to approve each one. It
That's
just
huge.
didn't click, so I like this. All my concerns with respect to the home business were met. They were easily identified in the class 1 and 2, and then, yeah, I don't know if we're ever gonna fix the commercial vehicle issue, but I think at least give it some sort of enforcement. I'm a little more comforted knowing that you've committed to help enforce this. Because my big concern is once they get it, it's like, okay, great, now you can't stop them, but it looks like we have a snitch line, it looks like, and so we'll take our pictures and send them in.
And it's
so.
recorded, so
Yeah.
we're good.
See something, say something.
That's right.
Email the Blight Task Force.
Right.
No more discussion?
Move to favorably recommend the zoning ordinance amendment to the following section 302.1 terms defined by removing home occupation and adding a definition for home businesses, table 5-1, table of allowed uses for residential zoning districts, and table 5-2, table of allowed uses for business zoning district by removing the use home occupation and adding the use home business class 1 as permitted in the RA, RA1, RA2, RB, RC, NB, BA, BA1, BB, BB1, and CB zoning districts, and adding the use home business class 2 as allowed by planning board special permit in the RA, RA1, RA2, RB, RC, NB, BA, BA1, BB, BB1, and ZB zoning districts. My God. Table 9-4, permitted sign uses by prohibiting signs for home businesses, and Section 310.0, home occupations by replacing the current regulations with a new section titled Section 310, home businesses including new standards and conditions.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Approved. Look at that, maybe you ought to show up more often and your stuff will get approved. Yeah. Approval not required.
So I have a plan for you of a land transfer between two lots, one of which is fronts on Hanoush Drive, the other fronts on Burney Avenue. It's not a subdivision because it's a conveyance, which leaves all affected properties with the minimum required frontage. Someone wants to make a motion?
APR, is that it? Or a DNR?
DNR, you're not going anywhere.
Sit down, ma'am. That's this one, right? Move to endorse the plan and find that it does not constitute a subdivision because it shows a conveyance of land that changes the shape of existing lots, with each affected lot being left with more than the required frontage.
Any discussion? All those in,
Come closer to the mic.
any discussion? No. Okay, so we got a motion, we got a second by Bev, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, you're all set. Sign away.
Sign your DNR. Tonight will be an interesting public records request. Board member Brown requested to sign DNR. Board member McLean left.
Minutes, acceptance of May 4th?
Move to approve the meeting minutes of May 4th, 2022.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, approved. Any action items?
No,
Subdivision?
no,
New old business?
no.
Move to close the hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, adjourned. Good night, West Springfield.